Welcome to the K Plus J Living Podcast,
where we talk about designing a meaningful home, better health, and more happiness.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Hello.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 16 of the K Plus J Living Podcast. And this episode, we are talking about living simply. We had a brand new ebook that just came out that kind of walks through living simply and what that means for us and our family. And we thought we'd also do this as a Facebook Live. And so we're live, on Facebook, and we are at our studio store. You can kind of see where we're setting up in the background. So
we don't know what to call it yet. We're thinking a Stordio.
Stordio. It's a hybrid of
studio and store.
Store.
Can I talk for a minute, though, of why I look like a train wreck?
Sure.
Okay.
But just for the record, you don't look like a train wreck.
I look like a train wreck.
You look beautiful.
He didn't tell me that we were recording live, so today is day 3 of me being fully employed with K Plus J. I do not have a another job anymore. So I'm doing this now, but I also decided I've been having some health problems lately, and so I decided on Monday that would be a good time for me to do like a detox of caffeine, and it's been very, very bad. I've hated it. It's horrible.
So she kind of just jumped in the deep end with everything all at once.
I took 2 naps today. It's day 3. And so if I look like I'm very tired, I don't look well, that's why. I would do anything for a cup of coffee right now. So I don't look great.
I think you look beautiful.
That's very nice.
So we actually have two camera angles here. We've got one that we're recording for YouTube, and we have one that we're recording that's actually live. So they're both kind of, if you see us kind of looking back and forth, that's why. So anyways, like we were saying,
that angle is better for me, by the way.
You like that one?
Yeah.
You could move that over. Oh. Move the live one over. Oh, look at that. I knew
live.
There's my nose. That's my nose.
Oh, that's
what do you got going on there?
I made it so much worse.
I'm going to fix this.
Okay. No, it's great.
No,
this
it's
is
not.
Great.
It's horrible.
Oh, it's very top heavy.
That's because you don't know what you're doing.
Oh, that's so much nicer. I love it.
How's that?
That's great. That's much better.
Okay. Isn't that great? Hey, so the other thing that we wanted to give a shout out to is Avalon.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We met her at a band fundraiser the other night.
Yeah, we met Avalon at a band fundraiser the other night, and she just loves what we're doing with K Plus J, and she came up and introduced herself. It was very, very
It was
sweet.
awesome. I wish more people would do that. That was really fun.
It was cool. So, hey, thank you for that, Avalon. We appreciate that. That was fun. So, hey, we're going to get into this week's episode of the podcast. And like we said, we just came out with a brand new ebook called Living Simply. And the goal behind that was really to give you a peek into how we live our life, but also hear from you how you are working towards living simply and what that means for you. So these are tips and tricks and things that work for us. And maybe that some of those things will add value to you. We're not saying that this is the end-all, be-all and the thing you have to do, but it's an idea. So let's jump in here. One of the things that we believe totally and completely is that what it means to live simply, it's not some destination that you reach, but it's a journey that you are on. So, and there's layers of living simply, and what living simply for one person could mean something completely different for somebody else. Like us together. I was just going to say that. I was going to share that. So, share that kind of your perspective.
Well, Casey's he would be like the man that lives in like a 1-room house with a plate, one for each person. And I'm all about, like, I don't know, the stuff in our house. Not that I'm, like, a hoarder or anything.
But
I'm very sentimental. So
right.
I like things that have a lot of meaning in our house.
Yeah, and so one of the things about that, and one of the things I've learned from Jennifer that I just did not have, I didn't place a lot of value on things.
Is someone watching us?
Yeah, Rich Nicola. Hi, Rich. Thanks for watching. We love Rich. Rich has helped. He's helped
He's
our kids
a
with
fellow
band.
drumline enthusiast.
Yeah. How you doing, man? Great to see you. But one of the things when it comes to living simply in our home is that Jennifer has taught me to place a lot more sentimental value on things. Now, we're not clutter freaks. We don't believe in just hoarding all kinds of different things. That Jennifer likes to have things that add value to her, that have meaning. You can point to something. So one of the things we've talked about on this podcast has been this whole idea of surrounding yourself with things that tell your story. And that's the way our house is decorated. That's the kind of things that we are placing in our new store that's opening. September 6th is our opening day for that, so don't miss that. Hi, Robin. Great to see you. Hey, we're praying for you and your family. We love you. Good to see you. So anyways, of just surrounding ourselves. So living simply for us is surrounding ourselves with things that add value, but also clearing away the things that don't add value, clearing away the things that really make all kinds of clutter in our life. And one of those things hey, you're welcome. So if you're listening to this podcast, she said thank you. So some of you listen to it audibly, some of you see it on YouTube, some of you are watching on Facebook Live. So it's a few different ways. But one of the ways that we can live simply, and that our ebook talks about, and we're going to put the link in on the Facebook Live, but also on our podcast that you can download the ebook, is to clear away the stuff. And here's what we mean by stuff, is that stuff can be physical, emotional, and spiritual clutter in our lives. That life clutter to us is anything. Let me read this straight out of our book. Life clutter is anything unhealthy that's emotional, physical, or that we have an unhealthy, I'm trying to spit this out. Anything that we have an unhealthy emotional, physical, or spiritual attachment to. And letting go of those things can be literally painful. We share in this book how there is this Yale research study that talks about how we become physically attached to things. Here's what it says. Research at Yale recently identified 2 areas of the brain associated with pain. It's called the anterior cingulate cortex and insula. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But here's what it means. They both light up whenever we experience pain. And here's what's remarkable about this, is that the 2 areas also light up in response to letting go of items that we have a strong sentimental attachment to. So our brain reacts the same way when we let go of something, whether it be that clutter that we're clinging to, or when we experience physical pain. So decluttering is actually literally painful.
Yeah, and I was going to say sometimes people don't see it as clutter. Like, it's memories. So to them, this whole closet is full of memories, things that my mom gave me this, or whatever. So they don't even really see it so much as clutter. Another person might walk in there and see it as clutter, but I think that's something that I think sometimes when you're so just in with all that stuff that you can't even see it as clutter.
Yeah, and a lot of that clutter, what we're really trying to hold on to is the memory, and we're trying to hold on to the person or the thing that's attached to, or the experience. But the physical item really doesn't, a lot of times, it's not really the thing. What we're really looking for is actually the thing behind the thing, which is that memory. So living simply for us is, first of all, letting go of the stuff that really gets in the way of living a meaningful life. Because if we're honest with ourselves, that the things that are actually meaningful in our life actually aren't things. It's people. And that's not my quote. That's a quote from The Minimalist, which is Joshua Fields Millborn and Ryan Nicodemus, who I just... they're my heroes. So if you've never studied minimalism, if you get on Netflix and watch the documentary Minimalism, it's so good. I've been walking my journey of minimalism for I'd say 4 years, quite a while now, and it's just learning more and more on how to live simpler and not being connected to stuff. So.
It stressed me out a little bit, though, at first. I'm not going to lie. Like, at first, I couldn't watch the documentary, the book. It all stressed me out too much. I had to kind of find my own way of what living simply means for me and how to do that as a couple.
Yeah. Yeah, and how did we do that? Because I'm a all or nothing, so the pendulum swung way hard, like to where I was almost like a Buddhist or something. I'm kidding.
Naked because you got rid of all your clothes?
The Naked Buddhist. That should be a book. Even though I'm
is.
a Christian, I could still write a book called I'm kidding.
Well, yeah. So, but that's kind of the way you are. You're just like all or nothing all the way. And I'm the one that can kind of balance that and say the more practical way to, approach this. And so, it took me saying, your clothes are really boring, and could you dress in something different? Just sometimes, just like when we go on a date, And so it was just little things like that, like,
And I honored that.
Yeah.
And bought a few, 2 shirts that had color.
Yeah.
Like I have this. This is nice.
That's very colorful.
And kind of have that balance for us. But so... how does living simply work as a family is a huge conversation to have. And when you read the book, you'll understand a little bit more of what we mean when we're talking about living simply. But
in a way, because our kids, we grew up, they grew up in such a tiny house. In a way, we did have to be super. We had to live simply just because we only had 2 bedrooms. So we did have to pare down all the time and that sort of thing. So, to a certain extent, we've always kind of lived simply, but it is a conversation that you have to have as a family.
Yeah, and it's okay. Like for me, I look for ways to live simply with the products that I use. And there's ways to do that where you can still be an individual, but yet married.
Yeah.
Even the products I use, bath body products, all of them are low, they're very eco-friendly, environmentally friendly. So to me, that's also ways to live simply. I use Dr. Bronner's soap, Dr. Bronner's toothpaste. I've also used Tom's. We have bamboo.
You're way fussier than me.
Yeah.
I use shampoo for body soap.
Yeah, so
I'm very simple.
There's a difference. So my toothbrushes are bamboo. No. They're biodegradable. Jennifer doesn't do this, and that's totally fine. That's the thing. It's totally fine. It's just we have our journey together, and then we have our own individual journey of the things that we're pursuing ourselves, and so. There we go. But moving beyond stuff, one of the other ways of living simply is, I believe, living a life full of gratitude, regardless of what's happening in your life. And one of the quotes that really hit home to me, that a thought that popped into my head when I was having this conversation with someone who'd just gone through a really tragic time. This thought that I felt like was a God thought in my head. It says, and it's this: when we are grateful, our life clutter loses its hold and life becomes simpler. So that's something I've grown in. I haven't always been that way. Jennifer's been much more go with the flow and laid back than I have been.
Yeah, but I think that when life throws you curveballs, and I've had some pretty major, health things in the past, and I think when we've gone through those things, I know the first, I had a time where I was hospitalized for a month, and when I went home, the first thing I wanted to do was...
It wasn't mental.
No.
I'm kidding. Joking.
University of Iowa.
It was University of Iowa
They're awesome. Anyway, yeah, it was about a month. But anyway, the first thing I wanted to do was to take a family picture of our whole family, and we hadn't had one done recently, and it was it just, I don't know, it just made us realize this is what we have, this is what's important. I just wanted to get home to my babies, but you go through those things and you realize what's really important.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot we can control, and there's a lot of things that we place value on that really isn't important. So when we're talking about gratitude, here's one of the things that we can live more simply when we surrender this following list over to God. We live more simply when we surrender the following things over to God. 1, the need for more. Stuff isn't the issue. It's the need for, like, you have to have something in order to feel happy or fulfilled. That's the disconnect. There's nothing wrong with buying something. I like to buy nice things. So the need for more. The next thing is surrendering our ego. That our ego is where we try to control our own lives, and we feel like there's very little we can control. So surrendering the need for more, surrendering ego, surrendering our anger over to God, surrendering our guilt, our fear, our failure, our regret, our worry. Here's another one we can surrender over to God, is living someone else's story. Don't let anyone place their story on you. A lot of us are trying to earn our parents' approval, or earn that friend that we're never good enough for, or maybe it's our spouse that we're just never good enough for them, that there's these deeper conversations that you need to have. Finally, comparing ourselves to others, that we have our own life, and we have our own path, our own journey that we're on, and when we surrender these things over to God, we live simpler lives because we're not stressed with anything external of what's out there pressuring us. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be respectful, that we shouldn't, like for Jennifer, I look for ways to love her and help her reach, her goals and the things that are happening in her life to make her feel loved and respected and nurtured. And so there's those things, and she does the same for me, but it's giving without having expectation. Of giving out of love and generosity. And that's one of the ways that we can live simply when we let go of all these things. So,
well, I was going to say back on that comparing thing, Rachel and I just had a conversation this morning where she was saying just how difficult, she was just talking about, she had watched a mom on Facebook that was talking about ways that she was handling her child. And I said, I am so lucky that I am probably the last generation that was able to parent without social media. I did not have that influence when my kids were little. And so to a certain extent, I mean, you're always kind of winging it as a parent, but I was able to go to my mom or my grandma or my friends. I didn't have this judgmental thing where the whole internet is watching you, and I didn't have Pinterest to compare myself to all of these perfect moms, And so I think that is just such a hard thing right now that, just to step back from social media even will help you live simply, I think. It's a wonderful tool to get ideas and products and, all sorts of things. But to a certain extent, I think, especially parenting, we do need to step back and just be your own parent, be yourself, Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think it's trusting yourself.
Yes.
Because we can't parent in order to... I want to say this. So here's the thing. I think a lot of times sometimes we can parent because we want to be a part of a fad. So we place ourselves in a group of people because we want to be associated with a certain group. And I think we are very communal people. We're tribal people as human beings that we want to connect. We want to be a part of groups. But when we punt on our own values and we punt on our own boundaries in order to be associated with a certain group of people,
or just to even have that approval on social media, if you know what the common opinion is,
Yeah, and just know that be you and live what it means for you to live simply, because we can stress about trying to connect with this group or that group, and I have some in my head. I'm just being very careful.
We won't call them.
Not to actually say specific groups of people out of respect, because it's not, and some of those groups I would associate with as a parent, but I don't want them to come across as I'm being condescending. Which leads us into the next part that we're pulling from our book, Living Simply. Like I said, we'll put the link in the Facebook Live video. But it's really living simply for us. It doesn't mean that life is easy. because life is not easy. There's times when it's easier, but life is about work, and God gave us work. So work is supposed to be a rewarding, fulfilling thing, but also life is about enjoyment and finding fulfillment. And I think there's a difference between fulfillment and happiness.
We talked about that. We
did talk about that, but I want to give you 3 things that I don't think we said on that podcast about fulfillment and happiness. Is this 4 things? Sorry, 4 things that you can pursue to find fulfillment over happiness. So the first one is remember you're unique and important to humanity. It sounds so simple and almost cliche, but it's so true. You're unique. You're created for a reason and a purpose. There's nobody else like you. There never will be anybody else like you. That when God created you, He broke the mold, meaning that there's nobody else like you. Even if you have a twin, you're still unique. You're still different. So you're on this earth for a reason. Okay, so that gives us fulfillment over just temporary happiness. The next one is never make money and material possessions your primary focus.
That's a big one.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with making money. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with having a great job or being a millionaire or any of those things. But if that's your drive, if that's your focus, I think you miss happiness over fulfillment. Hey, there's Nicole Hawkins. Hi, Nicole. And there's Aunt Jane. Hi, Aunt Jane.
But can I just pause for a second
Yes.
and say I have 2 hairdressers that are watching this.
Oh.
Listen, girls, this is so bad right now. All I can see is my gray hair, and I've asked both of them if I can go gray, and both of them said no.
Yeah.
But look, I can't. It's so bad. I didn't know I was going to be on camera, and 2 hairdressers are watching me. Now what?
Look at all this gray.
Yeah, but guys can go gray, and you look distinguished and nice.
Oh.
I
look distinguished and nice.
I look almost maybe witchy.
You don't look witchy. No.
It's bad. All right, sorry.
Okay, so never make gray hair your primary focus. No, that's not what I said. I said never make money and material possessions your primary focus. That's number 2. Number 3 is help people. If you want to find fulfillment in your life over happiness, help other people. Give of yourself. Give of your... This is a pastor term right here. This is the pastor coming out of me. Give of your time, your treasure, and your talent. Those are the 3 T's that you can give of to help other people. And I think the last one, to really find fulfillment over happiness that really helps us to live simply, is to forgive and let go. You know, that forgiveness is such a huge part. I can go on and on of times in my life where forgiving... Here's the thing. Forgiveness, not only... It doesn't release the other person. It releases you to be able to move on with your life. And
forgive and forget is not really a thing.
No, because there's... I've had trauma in my own life. I think I've touched on that, of being molested when I was little. And it took me a long time to forgive. But that forgiveness... it freed me, but I never forgot that happened. I didn't pretend.
It's not how we're wired. It's not how we're made.
But forgiveness means that you're freeing that person, that situation over to God, and you're saying, I'm moving on with my life. Mm-hmm. So that's another way to live simply. So there's so many other ways that we talk about in our new ebook, and it's completely free. It's called Living Simply. We talk about clothes that you wear, and that's more me. But we also talk about...
I like clothes.
You do like clothes, but you're not...
But today I'm wearing a shirt I might have slept in last night.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Hey, we've been doing a lot of work today. That's okay.
Well, and I took 2 naps today because no caffeine. So.
She's been detoxing, so,
You need the old T-shirt.
So for our anniversary, I think I'm going to buy her like a park bench, because most other people I know that wear the clothes from the night before and take multiple naps they live on a park bench. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Okay, so we also talk about finances, what it means to live simply with your finances. We talk about how to live simply with your health, and we talk about living simply and contributing to other people. So there's multiple things we talk about in this Living Simply, and we hope it adds value to you. We hope you can find ways that you can live simply in your own life, because we want to see that happen. So real quick, we want to talk to you about some things we have coming up. We have our store that we're sitting in right now that is not finished at all.
I'll try not to make you dizzy or fall over. We have this lovely wall. That's to the pizza place. Look at this thing over here.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Oh,
I'm
not
cubby.
talking to the microphone. I forgot.
A little cubby there.
It's so cool. With
Oh,
no,
I knew she was going to do that. That's twice now.
Yep.
So here's the thing. We've got the store opening up on September 6th, 7th, and 8th. So that weekend, we're opening up from 1 p.m. to 7. We're only open once a month. But every month, it's going to be like a brand new store.
Right. It gives us the whole month to collect new goods.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're very excited about that. And then the rest of the month, it operates as a photography studio. But also, we're going to have some events in here. We have one that we're working on called Bliss. And Bliss is a marriage night and for couples. And this marriage night, you're going to be able to bring, we're going to have hors d'oeuvres and like wine tasting, and you're going to be able to get pictures as a couple from the Jennifer Jane.
Oh my gosh.
And you're going to be able to shop in our store. So it's just going to be a fun night. So stay tuned for that. Also stay tuned. We don't throw you too much information. We're also going to have our text, what am I thinking of?
The daily deal.
deals.
Yeah.
That's going to be happening. That's going to be coming out soon. So there's lots of fun things that are going on. Hey, there's Dory. Hey, Dory.
Dory has great stuff.
Dory is the junk refunkery. I'm sorry. I messed that up way too much. So she is awesome. She has the coolest stuff in the world. In fact, she's going to have some of her stuff at our store that you will be able to buy, and we are so excited about that. Very cool. So, so many fun things happening. Thanks for watching on Facebook Live. Also, thanks for listening if you're listening to this podcast. Hey, we also ask that if you can hop onto iTunes and rate this podcast, here's what it does. If you hop onto iTunes and rate this podcast, it helps it go up in the ratings on iTunes. It says rates and reviews, but also helps us reach more people, because our goal is to help people design a meaningful home, better health, and more happiness. That's what K+J Living is all about. And we'd love for you to also connect with us on all the social medias.
Yeah, and if you're just tuning in, go back to the beginning so that you can see why I look like a train wreck, because that's very important.
She's that's just not. She's very insecure being on Facebook Live.
I didn't know we were going to record.
She's beautiful. Looks beautiful. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.